Hi, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. I wanted to talk about Amberlynn Reid. As some of you may know, Amber has disappeared off of the internet. So while we await the return of our dear girl, we are going to do a retro react. I'm going to look at Amber's most infamous diet cycle. That's right. Today, we discuss Optiva. Now, Optiva was about 1.5 years before I ever started doing React. It was actually well before I even got into watching anything by our girls. But it is such an interesting, fascinating case of self-sabotage that I can't help but want to react to it. The video that I am referring to, if you guys want to go and check it out yourself, is from February 12th, 2019. And it's titled, I Wasn't Expecting This. Before we start, I do want to give a couple of quick bits of information here for those of you who aren't familiar with what Optiva is. Optiva is essentially a weight loss MLM, right? If you guys are confused by what an MLM is, it stands for multi-level marketing. Essentially, it's a glorified pyramid scheme. You make money by recruiting more people into the pyramid who then will generate your revenue for you by buying the products. It's less about selling to other people and more about recruiting more people so that you can earn money. Most people who actually join an MLM end up losing money. If you guys want more thorough coverage on MLMs, let me know down below, or if you guys just want to check out more about MLMs in general and not about Optiva in particular, I would say you should go check out Kiki Chanel's channel. Fantastic. She does great MLM coverage.
Hey guys, so it's day 1 of me being on Optiva, and let's do this thing. I got my box. I'm gonna do an unboxing for you guys, but I have to eat 30 minutes of waking up and drink a cup of water. This is way over a cup, but chug. So if you're new to my channel or you haven't seen already, I have to eat 5 of their foods a day and then 1 lean ingredient a day, which I can explain later in this video. This video is gonna be my first week on Optiva. Gotta learn how to pronounce it still. And I kind of just want to share my journey with that. I do want to say that my starting weight for this, well, my overall starting weight ever is 560. That was a month ago. But my starting weight on this, as of today, is 553.4. So I am down like 6.6 this month.
I went on to Optiva's website as research for this video, and I looked at a bunch of their meal replacements. And from my understanding, you're eating about 5 of these fuelings and you have 1 lean ingredient at the end of the day. And if my calculations are correct, given what you're eating, you could be eating anywhere from 800 to like 1,100, maybe 1,200 calories, which is very, very low. That is very low for most people. But for someone who is 560 pounds at this point, by her own admission, that is an enormous drop in calories. At 5'2", Amber needs to eat about 3,800 calories just to maintain on a daily basis. So if she's going from eating 3,800 calories of hyper palatable food to eating what is essentially glorified granola bars, she's gonna experience weight loss, true, but that is such a difficult thing to maintain, especially for someone who has eating problems like Amber has admitted that she has, and who is not getting any kind of psychiatric help or replacing her crutch, as it were, with something else, right? She's essentially taking away her emotional support here, which for her is food, hence the weight. And she's not replacing it with anything, and she's not seeing anybody who can help guide her through this or give her other coping strategies. So already, just from the offset, this is like poised to fail.
So I've opened the first fueling and I'm gonna eat this and try this on camera. It's the cranberry honey note granola bar. So I chose something that I feel like might be my least favorite, just to kind of get that first taste out of the way. I know that's probably a weird way to think, but let's try it. I'm really nervous. It's so good.
Those fuelings are essentially just glorified granola bars. I checked every single granola bar they currently have available on their website, and not one of them is over 110 calories. I'll throw up the nutrition facts for the one that she's eating currently.
And Becky and I are going out to her sister's today, so I'm already gonna be having temptation staring at me right in the face. So I am going to be packing 4 more fuelings just in case we get home late. And then if we do get home late, I'll have my lean and green as my last meal, which I don't want to do. So we'll see.
This is the first day. Why would you choose to start a program on a day where you have to go to somebody else's house? It doesn't even have to be for a party. When you are starting something new, when it's fragile, the best way to make sure that it has the greatest chance of surviving is to essentially make it fail-proof, right? You stay at home, you plan your meals, you make sure that you get all of the emotional support you need, you make sure that your loved ones are aware of what you're doing so that they can provide you the right kind of support as well. And you do this in hopes that even though the first few days may be hard, after that point, it may become routine, and then you can go out, you can go to other people's house, you can be in an environment where you can't control the food. To start something already on such weak ground, once more, I can't say anything more than it's almost like she wants this to fail.
So we just got back from hanging out at Becky's sister's. There was pizza. It looked good, but with this program, I noticed that I didn't feel as compelled to have a piece because I knew I couldn't. In the past, everything else I've ever done, counting calories or Weight Watchers, I was able to have pizza. Even if I was eating healthy, I would still convince myself that a piece was okay. This time, it didn't even happen. Stuck to everything I was supposed to today.
The problem with this type of thinking is that it essentially takes away your power of choice. Now, I understand that this can be great for someone who struggles, but the problem with it essentially is that they are giving you what you have to eat and you are supplying the willpower to stick to this regimen. And it's great for as long as your willpower stands, right? The moment your willpower flatters, you're going to stop wanting to eat this food. And that's true with a lot of different diets that have very, very regimented, very restrictive foods, right? As long as you're sticking to the program, it takes away that choice that you have. So you don't have to flounder, you don't have to think about what you have to eat every day. And that can make it a little bit easier. Unfortunately, that also depends very heavily on your willpower to sustain. The moment your willpower goes away, the moment the program will fail. And willpower, science has shown us, is an extremely limited commodity, right? Maybe I shouldn't say extremely limited. I think I'm more pinpointing Amberlynn in this than anything else. But it is a limited commodity for anybody. You have to exert mental energy to have willpower. And I don't think that people have an endless amount of it. I don't think anybody has an endless amount of it. And science backs me up here. So you will run out of willpower eventually. And if you've got through a very drastic change and you don't have a routine set up where that routine can help take you through and help you while you replenish your willpower stores, the plan will fail. And that's what will happen here, right? We know this because this has already happened. This is in the past, but more importantly, because this is something that I think everyone will recognize. You start off something, you're gung-ho about it, it's going great, you're like, yeah, I can do this. And then you get tired and you're like, oh, but I really want that one thing. I really want that cookie. Oh my God, it's, Katie's birthday and she has the best cakes and I'll just have one slice, right? And that's how it starts. Your willpower starts to crack. And then all of those options that were pre-selected for you will no longer sound good to you. More importantly, these fuelings are all granola bars and shakes and stuff like that, and they're so low calorie. They're incredibly low calorie. Over their repertoire of food, I took a look and I couldn't find one thing that was over 110 calorie of anything that's on their website currently. That's awful. That's so terrible. For someone used to eating extremely ultra processed food and candy and chips every single day, this is not going to keep her satiated. This is going to make her miserable. And the longer she stays on it, the more miserable that she's going to feel. The more miserable anybody would feel. And I worry that if people do diets like these, like Amberlynn does, you're gonna crash and you're gonna end up eating so much more than you would have otherwise, because that's the mind frame it's put you in. It's put you in this extremely restrictive mind frame.
Hey guys, so we are on day 2, February 2nd, and I just woke up. So I'm having a dark chocolate cherry shake, and I'm gonna do a taste test for you guys. I'm gonna put more water in it, because I noticed that yesterday when I had the strawberry one, that it says put a cup of water in there, but I think it tastes better with a little bit more. Actually, a lot better. That's better, for sure. So far, I'd say the shakes are my least favorite, but everything else I've tried has been really good.
I said before, I'll say it again. All of these fuelings are extremely low calories. I think the shake that she's drinking is like 100 calorie. That's a very, very small amount for someone as heavy as Amberlynn is. She could easily eat and drink twice the amount of calories that she's going to be consuming on this program and still lose a good amount of weight. More to the point, eating this few calories can actually harm you in weight loss. Your body adapts, and your body will slow down your metabolism. It will slow down your willingness to do activities. You'll have things like the headaches that she mentioned that you might get. All of those things are going to add up to you wanting to do less and less to compensate for the caloric deficit that you're in, right? Especially because the caloric deficit is so huge. You are going to end up not losing as much weight as you would like, simply because you're eating so few calories. The smarter move is almost always to restrict a smaller amount and do it for a longer period of time.
So I wanted to give just like a little update on how I'm feeling and kind of like where my thoughts are today. Like I said, it's day 2. I'm currently just in the spot of, I had my number 2 feeling maybe less than an hour ago. How I'm feeling is like really good. I haven't had any cravings. I'm not hungry. Like before my feeling number 2, I was just like, I'm not even hungry. So yeah, this food and the way I'm eating definitely takes away cravings. I know it's only day 2, and this food does make you feel fuller because it's healthy and it's nutritional and it's low carb, but high protein, the right amount of fiber, you know, things like that. This is a very drastic difference from how I used to eat.
Of course she feels great. It's the first few days. That's the easiest part. That's when you have the most amount of stored willpower. But what about when it becomes week 2? What about when it becomes week 3? Will you be able to do this then? Will you be able to continue eating this way then? If not, then you shouldn't start now, because it's going to require that much more energy, that much more effort, and that much more dedication from you to maintain.
Okay, you guys, welcome to day 3. So it is the end of the night, like way at night. And I have a little story time for you guys. So let's get into it. Yesterday, mentally, physically, I felt incredible. I don't think that there is a time that I have done a program or a weight loss journey diet situation where I felt as good as I did, and that's just 100% honesty. I was getting into my head so bad. We were having a bonfire and everyone was sitting around with their hot dogs and their chips and their this and their that, and I'm just like, can't have any of it. Like emotionally I was a wreck, but like physically I felt so good. My mind and my brain was like, it's like a fog was lifted. It's wild. It's a really wild ride, and it felt really good.
Amber does this a lot, I've noticed. She tends to separate her body and her. She looks at it like they're two separate parts. So my mind felt great, but my body felt awful. Those are not two separate things. Those are one thing. You and your body are the same thing. You are connected. You can say that my mental health wasn't great, but to say that my mind was great, but my body was not, is to disconnect yourself from your body and to essentially imply that it has its own separate feelings, its own separate emotions, its own separate state from your brain. That's not how it works. It can't work that way, unfortunately. And honest to goodness, I feel like this is a very slippery slope for Amber, because she does this when she refers to her binge monster as well, to disassociate herself from those actions. And it makes me feel like it's a coping mechanism to hide behind something else, right? Well, it wasn't my brain. It wasn't me. My body felt that way. It wasn't me. The binge monster did it. It's to deflect blame onto another entity. In this case, that entity, both of those entities are her. But by giving them a separate name and giving them a separate designation, it's easier to say, well, it was that, not me. I wouldn't do that. The second thing is, when you have emotional eating problems like Amber clearly does, nobody reaches 560 pounds if they don't have some sort of eating problem, right? For someone who has an emotional eating problem, dismissing your mental health by saying, well, my body felt great, is extremely counterproductive. Human beings are complicated. We are not like any other animals out there. We eat for comfort a lot more than we should, right? There's nothing wrong with it. Everybody's done it. I myself have like eaten cupcakes because I felt like, man, this is gonna turn around a bad day, you know? Everybody thinks like that occasionally, which is not harmful. But when you use food as a numbing mechanism for everything to dismiss your mental health component, it's just gonna do you a disservice for your weight loss journey.
But again, I was living in fear and I was trying to find tons of excuses to quit. I'm gonna be honest, I was trying to find every excuse to quit and I found one. So I got to thinking, I was like, how many calories am I eating in a day doing this program? So I logged everything into MyFitnessPal from day 1 and day 2, and it was only about 900 calories. So I got a little freaked out. I honestly was freaking out, I'm gonna be real. I also had a lot of people in my ear telling me, yeah, 900 calories seems too little and all this stuff, and I was just like getting scared. But the thing was, I wasn't hungry at all. I felt satisfied, and every time it was time to eat again, I was like, I wasn't even hungry, and I just felt really, really good. So I messaged my health coach and I told her I don't think I can do this anymore. I ended up having brown rice that night, which you're not allowed to have on program, and I had a cup of noodle. So I ended the day at about 1600 calories. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna stop doing Optiva and I am just going to, you know, eat less and eat healthy. Why am I doing Optiva? Like, this was the worst idea I've ever came up with. Like, I was really beating myself up. Like, you guys have no idea. All because I was terrified about the amount of calories I was consuming. So I woke up today and I weighed in at 550.6, so that's a 0.6 weight gain because of the sodium, and that's really the only thing I can think of, because that cup of noodle, I'm gonna be real, it has a lot of sodium in it because Optiva is very low sodium. So I was retaining a lot of water from deciding to eat that cup of noodle, and I drank a lot of water and I was holding on to it. It was just like a mess. So I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm not doing Optiva. I'm just gonna do my own thing. I ended up making a really healthy meal, and then I just felt binge crazy. Like, I just wanted to binge on everything. So I ended up having pasta. Like, it was a mess. And when I was being super strict on Optiva, I didn't have that urge to binge. I didn't have the cravings. It's wild. It was wild.
See, this is what I meant. This is the restrict binge mentality. She restricted so hard that her brain is now saying, okay, well, let's eat all of the things. Since I'm no longer dieting anyway, I might as well eat all of the things, right? Once more, I think this is a spectrum. everyone does this occasionally, depending on who you are and what the food is and what your particular circumstances were, right? And it's not just in terms of food either. People do this in other regards too. I know myself well enough to know that I went through a phase where I couldn't really buy new stuff for myself. I didn't really have the funds in college, and so I was really limited in what I could afford. And then I had more income, and then I decided I'm just gonna buy all the things. I'm gonna buy everything I've possibly wanted or could desire. And I bought it, and I ended up with just so much stuff, and a lot of it was makeup. I ended up with so much makeup, more than I could ever use or ever need. And all it did was it made me feel bad. And this is the same thing. Because you restricted how much you were eating and what you could eat to such a narrow field, you essentially created this sort of pedestal that you place this food on. And now that you have access to it, everything inside of you is screaming, all of it. I want all of it. I couldn't have it before. Who knows when I'll have it again? Let's just eat all of it while I have the chance. And that is essentially what the restrict binge mindset is. And once more, for someone who has mental health issues and emotional eating issues, she's gonna swing back and forth to those extremes a lot more and a lot faster and a lot harder than most other people would. If you want my advice on how to do sustainable weight loss, try and keep a food journal for a couple of weeks, right? No judgment, just see what you're eating, how much you're eating, when you're eating, that sort of thing. And once you have a rough ballpark of how many calories you're eating per day, cut about 200 calories out, right? And do that like, okay, well, I find myself eating like a handful of nuts in the afternoon. Try having maybe like half a handful. I think for a lot of people, it's junk food. I don't think people are binging on nuts. But what you could do is, say if you were planning on having, you know, an entire bag of chips, maybe it's slightly less chips. Maybe have half a bag of chips and have an apple instead, you know? So pair the two together. Still have that snack, just eat slightly less of it and pair it with something else that you also enjoy. That is maybe a whole food. And do that. Cut out about 200 calories and do that for a few weeks. And once that no longer feels quite that hard, once it's no longer taxing for you, and be honest with yourself, you know, if it is not taxing, then go back in and cut out another 200 calories. Keep doing that until you've essentially reached the spectrum of calories that you want to eat on average. And then allow yourself the ability to go both over and under depending on how you're feeling. Now, I understand this sounds a lot like intuitive eating. I am not the hugest fan of intuitive eating as a whole. I don't think that the principles are very well applied, and I don't think that the science is really there to support some of its core tenets. But this is something in intuitive eating that I do agree with. I do believe in data collection. I do believe in assessing how foods make you feel and how you should use that data, and you should use those informational points to kind of guide the direction you want to go in. I also think another great idea is to add fruits, vegetables, healthy, you know, fats and fiber to all of your meals, right? Say you want to have pasta for dinner. That's all you were gonna make. You were just gonna make yourself an entire bowl of mac and cheese, right? Try maybe adding in a little bit of whole wheat pasta rather than using regular pasta. Try throwing in a little bit of sliced chicken breast in there for some protein. If you're planning on having a peanut butter sandwich, you know what's really, really yummy? I personally do this. I sprinkle in a couple of handfuls of hemp seeds and chia seeds into my peanut butter sandwich. I even slice a banana in there and I put that in there too. It's a lot more satiating. It's gonna keep you full a lot longer. And I honestly think that if you make these little tweaks here and there, you're gonna feel better overall, and you're going to want to continue doing that moving forward.
A few days ago, I have officially decided not to do Optiva. I have decided this through talking with my health coach, with my girlfriend, with tons of people who are close to me. I thought 800 to 900 calories is not sustainable for someone my weight. And if I was to ever try eating more than that, I would gain weight. It would mess up with my metabolism, and I just don't think I'm ready for that low of calorie. My doctor was totally fine with this program. I did talk to her about it. She was totally fine with it until I told her how many calories I would be eating, and then she told me that's just not a good idea. From a doctor's standpoint, she told me it's just too low of calorie for you or for anybody to sustain in their life.
This is the biggest issue for me in this video. She claims to have done so much research before she started this program, and yet she didn't talk to her doctor about it. Why? You knew there was something wrong with this program if you felt the need to ask your doctor about whether or not you should quit after the fact. So you probably knew this information before you started the program and could have done the same thing before you did this, right? It feels to me like she started this diet not caring whether it was healthy or not, but when she found out it was too hard for her, she decided to get a doctor's note as an excuse for why she shouldn't do it. That is not any way of trying to lose weight. I don't understand why you would do that, because you've essentially just thrown money down the drain. Look, I don't believe in extreme diets. I don't believe in fad diets. For the most part, I think the best way to lose weight is outside of your particular chemistry and maybe, you know, some health information that your doctor has. Everyone should do a healthy, well-balanced diet and just try and gradually reduce the amount of calories that they're eating and lose the weight that way. It'll be sustainable, your body will thank you, and it probably will help you not have any loose skin if you're doing a pretty, if you're going from one extreme body shape to a more medium body shape, you know? I just think that if you are gonna do something like that, if you are gonna start a crash diet, if you are going to do something that is very extreme, at least talk to your doctor about it, because even if your doctor advises you against it, they can at least give you information on how you can do this in the most healthful way possible, which, if nothing else, that should at least be a goal. Talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist if you have eating related mental health issues, and if you have the ability, also talk to a dietitian. I understand that most people are not going to have, you know, the ability to see the last two, maybe not even the first one, given the state of healthcare in America. If you have it, utilize all of those services. Your health is your wealth. It is the most important thing. But if you can't, just remember, easy come, easy go. And the reverse, unfortunately, is also true. The easier it is to lose the quote unquote weight, the easier it probably will be to put it back on too. Slow and steady is the only way that you can lose weight and keep it off. That is the entirety of my opinion on ALR's Optiva saga. Now, I realize my opinion might not be as extreme as a lot of people's, and my point from this was never to come on here and be like, well, why did she do that and why did she do this? I wanted to talk a lot about her health choices in this video because I feel like those are the most interesting and, quite frankly, the most frightening to me. Because the way that she thinks sometimes is the way that I used to think. It's the way that I think a lot of people who have weight problems think. They don't care about the healthfulness of a diet. They don't care about how beneficial it will be to them as long as it gets the weight off. And I think a lot of that has to do with their perceived, beauty, outer beauty. You're never gonna, God, I'm saying this from experience. You're never gonna feel beautiful if you don't think you're beautiful. It doesn't matter how much weight you lose. If you yourself don't find yourself to be beautiful, if you yourself are hypercritical of what you look like, no amount of weight loss will fix that. And no amount of weight loss will fix your mental health issues. They just won't. Weight loss isn't gonna magically make that better. Leave me your thoughts and opinions down below. If there's any other videos you want me to do a retro react to, I'm more than happy to do it. Just let me know which ones that is. And you leave me a thumbs up. Leave me a thumbs down if you hated it. That's fine with me too. Subscribe, share with your friends, do all of those YouTube-y things, you know, save me from the horrors of the algorithm. And remember, I am Jasmine, the sequel. And I am not relatable. Peace.